Check out carmarshal.com. The link is in the description. They help support us.
Watch, these Infowars videos were banned by YouTube. Share the videos YouTube doesn't want you to see. Infowars.com, February 23, 2018. YouTube is censoring videos more than ever and Infowars has become one of their main targets. The internet giant pulled down the following videos on the Parkland, Florida school shooting, and according to CNN, YouTube will ban the Alex Jones channel outright if 2 more videos receive strikes. Watch the 2 videos YouTube does not want you to see. David Hogg can't remember his lines in TV interview. Multiple eyewitnesses report more than one shooter in Parkland, Florida shooting. Below, Alex Jones explains how if Infowars is silenced, the precedent will be set to remove any media from internet platforms.
Why would you be using these kids to promote your political agenda? Think about that. Why would you have to use victims and children to advance your political agenda? You know why? Because you cannot advance your political agenda based on merit. You cannot advance your political agenda based on success, based on history. So what do? They use virtue. They use emotion. They use fabrication. They use lies because they cannot advance their political agenda based on merit.
The globalists are losing, but they're doubling down their attacks. There's one thing they fear, and it's people power. Infowars has defeated their censorship so far only because of you spreading the links, spreading the articles, subscribing, clicking the notification buttons, and getting the articles and videos out. But they are intensifying their censorship, so now it's more important than ever to ensure we keep the First Amendment alive and well right here in America and free speech worldwide. So from Australia to countries in Africa, to Europe, to Mexico, to right here in the USA, I salute you all for taking action and defending free speech. We will prevail.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
So now, not only do I shouldn't say all the students feel that way. We're just hearing from the same few students. And again, I'm playing a lot of these things. I don't know how to explain it. I'm not trying to cover some of the angles from this. I'll be honest with you, because there's just too much gray area and there's too much fog right now. But what it looks like is that the reason why the same people keep appearing on TV is because they are the ones being trained, and they may actually even have some experience in, acting. But that's another story for another day, is my guess. However, you've got these same students. We just played the video in the last segment. They are more upset with President Trump that, I mean, honestly had nothing to do with this. How you could blame Trump for this is beyond me, but they find a way to do it. But they're more upset with President Trump over the school shooting than the FBI. The FBI was tipped off about Nikolas Cruz in September 2017, and it turns out that in September of 2017 is when they were making their break on the Russians. The Russians! They got their 13 indictments of Russians. And you know what's going to come of that, folks? Absolutely nothing. Literally nothing. You know why? Because Putin isn't going to extradite 13 Russians. It's not going to happen. And now this Dutch banker that Mueller's indicted today, he's not going to get extradited either. Oh, but it was all part of the plan. Release the indictments while the Florida shooting was stealing all the headlines, so that Mueller's indictments, nobody actually looks into them. It becomes a surface coverage, and they say, oh, yeah, Mueller got him. Oh. And then back in Florida, what are they saying? Trump's the bad guy. This is Trump's fault. What do you think about Trump calling out the FBI for missing the signs that Nikolas Cruz was going to do this and not following through, even though they were tipped off about it? Trump's the bad guy. FBI good, even though it's potentially their fault. Trump bad. That's what these students are saying. But now, even though that logic, unfortunately for these young students, and they're young, David Knight coined the term youthful idiots. It's a good play on words, but I don't want to be insensitive to these kids, and it's tough. That's why they use the kids as pawns, because they don't want you to attack them, and they know that you know, a good person would have a little reserve as far as responding to these kids right now, but you have to call it what it is. But now CNN, even though these kids are more upset with Trump than the FBI, even though it was the FBI that ignored the signs of Cruz, CNN is now saying that they should be able to vote. Roll clip 12.
My innocence, our innocence, has been taken from us. I am 17, but in a matter of days, I have aged decades. Where is the common sense in these laws? Because of the systematic failure of our government,
the FBI,
on every level,
the FBI, the local police,
every day.
Every day they're dying in the abortion clinics. Yeah, in the abortion clinics. Yeah, you're right.
People in the government who are voted into power are lying to us. And us kids seem to be the only ones who notice and are prepared to call BS. They say that no laws
oh my
have been
gosh.
able to prevent the hundreds
This is so
of tragedies that have occurred. We call BS. That us kids don't know what we're talking about, that we're too young to understand how the government works. We call BS. If you agree, register
bullshit?
to vote, contact your local congresspeople.
They calling bullshit?
Give them a piece of your mind.
Yeah, I know. Adam Schiff is a liar.
Not enough. What we need is action. And through that action, you guys need to get out and vote and hold your elected officials accountable. Run for office. Get out there and show that you care. The people in the special interests that want to pass these gun laws to make it easier for these people to get guns are not going to stop, and we can't either.
This is about showing everybody that this will never happen again. This isn't about just sending thoughts and prayers anymore, as much as those help. This is about changing it. Thank you.
So that's just some of the footage there from one of the rallies that these students are having. I mean, what do you say? What do you do? Why would you be using these kids to promote your political agenda? Think about that. Why would you have to use victims and children to advance your political agenda? You know why? Because you cannot advance your political agenda based on merit. You cannot advance your political agenda based on success, based on history. So what do? They use virtue. They use emotion. They use fabrication. They use lies because they cannot advance their political agenda based on merit. I don't want to sit here and say that these kids are being coached or they're being told what to say or they're being trained. I'd rather sit here and say these kids are victims. They're obviously in shock. They're driven by emotion right now. They're confused. They want answers. They want results, and they're young. I'll be honest with you. Now, I don't know. I really don't know. I wasn't even that much into politics, to be honest with you. In fact, I wasn't into it at all until maybe when I got into college, and that's when I started to endure the liberal indoctrination. And I fell for this stuff. I said, yeah, let's ban all the guns. I've talked about it. But that's why they're using the children, because they know a well-rounded individual is not going to sit here and attack a child that's a victim. And they also know that they can use that emotion to try to tug at your heartstrings. But I need to play these clips. So let's now go to David Hogg, guys, clip 5. Now, again, I didn't want to touch this. I didn't want to touch Hogg's father being in the FBI. I didn't want to touch this video. I didn't want to touch the old video of him in California. I didn't want to touch any of this. I'm sick of this. Every time I have to cover a shooting, it's brutal enough to have to sit here and cover it. Now every time, it's like an explosive cigar with different angles here and different angles here. It's just crazy. So here's David Hogg, who can't remember his lines while being interviewed for television.
Because we had a fire alarm earlier that day, and that was a drill, so we thought this was a drill too, just another one. Because we have a lot of fire alarms, a lot of fire drills at the school. After we heard the first gunshot, we initially thought it was a drill. Actually, that was a bad choice. Hold on. It's okay, you're fine. Actually, that was a bad choice because the janitor. Sorry.
It's okay. You're fine, David. You're fine.
Honestly, when I was going out, I was kind of in. I wasn't. Hold on.
It's okay.
When I was going out, I was in shock.
Yes, I don't know how to put this in perspective. Okay.
So most of my friends that made it out, one of them went into a bathroom in the same, I believe, in the same hallway as the shooter. Oh, hold on.
It's okay.
One of them went into the same bathroom, I believe, as the hallway shooter. He was in there at the same time, and he was in the bathroom, and he didn't know if he was going to live.
Okay. Now, is that David Hogg being told what to say, struggling to get out his lines? Or is he camera shy? I mean, what's the deal there? It's pretty strange stuff. You'd think if you were just giving an account of the honest truth and what you experienced that you wouldn't struggle like that. Again, folks, I didn't want to do this. These are kids, okay? This is awful. But there it is. There you go. And there's more. There's more. And you notice, though, that the media is only pushing one narrative from these students, but there's actually other students out there that don't agree with the liberal gun grab. They actually feel differently. So we'll hear from those students on the other side. And you'll notice how their argument actually has common sense, logic, and reasoning to it instead of just an emotional political agenda.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
Fuel your body with Carnivore, the new digestive enzyme product by Infowars Life. Digestive enzymes assist in the digestion process and increase the bioavailability of nutrients by breaking down foods into easily absorbable components. They also help prevent discomfort from indigestion caused by fermentation of undigested food particles in the gut.
As I was going down the stairs, I heard a couple shots fired. Everyone was freaking out, saying that it was a gun. And as we were walking, the whole class together, I actually was speaking to the suspect, Nicholas Cruz. And as I was speaking to him, he seemed very, I don't know what the word I want to say is, but he was trouble in middle school, so I kind of joked to him about it and said, I'm surprised you weren't the one who did it. And he just gave me a huh? So that's really what happened.
You were walking down the hall, he had already fired at that time?
Yes, sir, with him.
Weren't you scared?
In the moment I wasn't, because there was obviously definitely another shooter involved, but...
Oh, you think he was not the only one?
No.
The globalists are losing, but they're doubling down their attacks. There's one thing they fear, and it's people power. Infowars has defeated their censorship so far only because of you spreading the links, spreading the articles, subscribing, clicking the notification buttons, and getting the articles and videos out. But they are intensifying their censorship, so now it's more important than ever to ensure we keep the First Amendment alive and well right here in America and free speech worldwide. So from Australia to countries in Africa, to Europe, to Mexico, to right here in the USA, I salute you all for taking action and defending free speech. We will prevail.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
Welcome to the War Room. I'm your host, Owen Schroyer, and we have been monitoring the details as they're breaking with the Florida shooting. This is something that's not fun to cover. It's not fun to try to get all these details and then report on them, especially when you know people are going to say you're crazy, even though you're just reporting on eyewitness testimonies. This is just what we have to do, because you'll notice that mainstream media, and I won't criticize Fox because at least some hosts over there are still on the Vegas shooting cover-up, We'll see what happens tonight on Fox News if they choose to report on the videos that we are going to air here today that indicate multiple shooters, at least eyewitness reports of multiple shooters at the Florida shooting, including one testimony of a senior at Marjorie Stoneman High saying that she was actually leaving the scene or fleeing the scene while there was a shooting happening, and she was next to Cruz, who was not shooting. So here's this eyewitness testimony who was walking with Cruz, fleeing the scene of the shooting while the shooting was still happening.
I actually was in the bathroom at the moment, and I had came back to my classroom, and I knocked on the door, and the fire alarm went off, and principal came on the speaker and just said, everyone needs to evacuate right now. So that's what we did. As I was going down the stairs, I heard a couple shots fired. Everyone was freaking out, saying that it was a gun. And
you know what?
As we were walking,
pause it right there. See, this is why this is so difficult. Because every time you hear something and then you cross-reference it with everything else you're hearing, you connect dots and you find out that something doesn't add up. Like, for example, she's saying she's knocking on the door before the fire alarm went off, and apparently they were being told to evacuate before they even had the code red, which was the shooter code, being alerted. But why would they be telling people to evacuate if there was a shooter going on? So again, I'm not saying she's lying. I mean, obviously she was in a traumatic situation. It's just like you try to absorb all of this information and some of it doesn't make sense. And it's like, well, what does that mean? So let's go back to her witness account.
Us together, I actually was speaking to the suspect, Nicholas Cruz. And as I was speaking to him, he seemed very, I don't know what the word I want to say is, but he was trouble in middle school. So I kind of joked to him about it and said, I'm surprised you weren't the one who did it. And he just gave me a huh. So that's really what happened.
You were walking down the hall. He had already fired at that time.
Yes, sir, with him.
Weren't you scared?
In the moment I wasn't, because there was obviously definitely another shooter involved, but.
Oh, you think he was not the only one?
No, definitely not.
Why do you say that?
All right, so bring that down. We're gonna cover more of this obviously throughout the show, and we'll play these clips throughout the show too. It's just, I mean, I'm in no man's land with this. Because again, just like the Vegas shooting, nothing adds up. And you don't want to report the wrong thing. You don't want to say the wrong thing. You don't want to offend anybody. You just have to report what you're seeing. Again, if she's walking out of the school, fleeing the scene with Nick Cruz just after the alarm went off, then you would say it wasn't even him. But everyone thought it was him. He doesn't seem to be saying it wasn't him. He's been, arrested. He doesn't seem to be fighting it. It's just a weird deal, and it's very tragic. So we just try to sort out and find out what's real.
Holy shit. Oh my God!
So those are the sights and sounds from a recording inside the school yesterday during the Florida shooting in Parkland, Florida. And we are just trying to figure out what's going on. We've got multiple eyewitnesses reporting multiple shooters. You've got what seems to be the perfect patsy in Nicholas Cruz. Now they're coming out, obviously, as we expect, demonizing the Second Amendment and saying that Cruz was a white supremacist. So this is what is breaking right now. As I said, though, we've got multiple eyewitness reports saying there are multiple shooters. And Infowars.com has the story on the shooter that may have had mental issues and was indeed on pharmaceutical drugs. This is an individual that was adopted. This was an individual who had already lost his adopted father and just his mother months ago. He was always troubled. He was setting off fire alarms in junior high school that got him kicked out. He then also got kicked out of his high school for disciplinary reasons. He was not allowed to bring a backpack into school because he was deemed as a threat. Apparently, he had made jokes or direct threats about coming to the school and shooting it up. Students joked about how if it ever happened, it would be him. The FBI was made aware in September that he had made threats to the school. Now, before we get into the multiple shooters, at least the eyewitness reports of multiple shooters, think about this. They always say, see something, say something. Well, people saw something and they said something to the FBI. And what did the FBI do? Apparently nothing. But I guess maybe we should go easy on the FBI, considering they've really got their hands full right now with the Trump-Russia collusion narrative. The FBI doesn't have time to investigate potential domestic terror threats, you see, because they're too busy investigating a fake story that is Trump-Russia collusion. So maybe if the FBI could prioritize itself and quit wasting taxpayer dollars and their time on investigating a story that everyone knows is fake, Trump-Russia collusion, and maybe investigate some of these domestic terror threats they've been warned about, maybe you could stop something like this. But that's not what we get. And actually, we do have stories where mass shootings may have been avoided, and we will get to those in a minute. Now people are being arrested for posing with their rifles online, and that is something that's being pushed for now by the police force there in Florida. They were also pushing for more funding, just like what we saw in Vegas. But now let's go to clip 19. This is a student and eyewitness who firsthand was witnessing the shooting and the carnage there, reporting multiple shooters.
All the kids to go outside so they could start shooting up. So they started shooting from the first floor up, because there's only 2 exits in the freshman building, so everybody started running.
So I'll pause it right there. Pause right there. See, this is why it's so difficult. She says that they start shooting at the first floor up, but all other reports say that the shooter was on the 3rd floor. So again, she could be misremembering, maybe mishearing. I don't know. I'm just trying to lay all this out and flesh all this out. So was the shooter ever on the 1st floor? Was it always on the 3rd floor? Did they start at the 1st floor? Were they in the stairwell? Obviously, the shooter pulled the fire alarm to get the people into the hall. There was a drill that day. The teachers had been talking about training for mass shooter drills. Apparently, Secret Service has been in there warning them about this. Let's go back to this eyewitness.
People started coming up. So everybody, and then I thank God to this teacher who opened up her door and let all of us in. She got shot in the arm trying to open the door, and then the other teacher, he got shot in the head trying to cut the other students, and it was like an hour, like it felt like years waiting for them. And then after all that, we finally got out, and like they started yelling at us to keep focused and pay attention ahead, the army people, because they didn't want us to see the bodies that they hid in the...
Now pause it right there. A lot of people are saying that that's very indicative that she says the army people, that the army was on the scene so quickly that indicates there may have been a drill going on, and that would be why the army was there. Again, I'm just reporting on what's being reported out there. When you talk about these army drills and you talk about these army troops and them being on the scene so fast, people are saying that indicates that there may have been a drill going on. Let's go back.
Mats over them so we wouldn't see them, but there was dust all over the floor from this weird thing they threw in there. They're trying to.
So you think there was more than? Do you think there was more than one
There's
shooter?
3 shooters right here.
She says 3 shooters, definitely.
How terrifying! Hold on one second, Mal. How terrifying!
It was pretty damn terrifying because they were putting us through drills, and we all thought this was a drill. We thought this was a drill, but it wasn't. And then we just started hearing the gunshots, and it was really terrifying because my class, the class I ran into, he started shooting through the door, and he came through, and he started shooting the cabinets, and that's when he shot the teacher. And then he ran back outside to shoot the other teacher who was closing the other door for the kids, but he didn't get to close the door, and he was just there. And so we were all just sushing each other, like, shut up, just suck it up if you're crying, because we're not trying to get shot. Because he was in the hallway yelling, hey, hey, trying to taunt us and get us to say things, trying to get us outside. And that's when some other kid, like, he ran out because he thought it was free, but he got shot, and then we heard the groaning outside, and we couldn't do anything.
What? So the shooter, tell me, besides, hey, what was he saying during
He
all
wasn't
this?
doing anything. He was legit, he just ran up the stairs, started shooting, and you could see a bunch of kids just going down that way, but stopping, but because the other shooter was coming. So everybody was screaming and stuff.
The other, so pause right there. Okay, so this is key. She says that the shooter, I mean, I wish she could talk about whether the shooter had a gas mask on or not. I didn't hear a comment on that. So the shooter, according to this eyewitness, is coming up the stairs to the 3rd floor and then shooting at people, and then people are running the opposite direction when, again, according to this eyewitness, people stopped and started running back because another shooter was on the other side of the hall. She says something interesting again later in this interview. Let's go on.
Because they were like, hey, do you hear that loud banging sound? And we all thought it was like some kid joking on the stairwell because they're hollow, so you could just hit a stick and it sounds like it. But then we all were like, oh, this is real. So we all just started running. It was really bad.
Now, one student told me that the shooter was wearing a bulletproof vest and a helmet. Did you see that?
I saw some other kid. When the other kid who came into the classroom.
Some other
he was
kid.
wearing some type of thing, and like, I don't know, but it was like I froze at that moment because you never know, because when the gun is like pointed towards you and the thing, you don't know what to do, and you kind of just like pause and you're just like, is this actually gonna happen? But I felt like he was going after all the teachers because a bunch of teachers got shot, and any of the kids who were in the way, they got shot.
All right. Is that the end of that video? Did I miss it? Because there's another part in that video where she talks about the Army people picking people up and putting them in a corner under mats. Did anyone else hear that, or is that are we missing a part of this clip? I may have to listen to that again in the break. Okay, so we've got that clip. There is also a moment where she's talking about her experience walking through the hallway after the event, and she says that the Army people are picking up the victims that are strewn about the hall that got shot, putting them in a corner and putting a mat over them. Now, folks, you don't have to be an expert at crime scene analysis to know that's not how that's handled ever. That makes no sense. Why would you be moving the bodies into a corner and placing them under a map when you know that this is an active crime scene and that investigators are going to be there later investigating it and analyzing it? So what's up with that? Is that just a mistake? Or was there some other reason why that went down? We're going to have more on the Florida shooting on the other side of the break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the War Room. I'm your host, Owen Schroyer, on this Thursday, February 15th, 2018. These are the tough times to be covering news, to have to think about the families and the people down there that have to deal with this, and to unfortunately have to come out here and be controversial in reporting the fact that multiple eyewitnesses have said there were multiple shooters. Now, I missed this the first time we played the clip, so I want to go back and play it again just so you can hear it. This is that last eyewitness we heard from in the last segment talking about the Army people pulling bodies from the hall and stacking them in a corner, which is very strange considering it's an active crime scene. Go ahead and roll that clip.
They got out and like they started yelling at us to keep focused and pay attention ahead, the Army people, because they didn't want us to see the bodies that they hid in the corner. They were putting mats over them so we wouldn't see them, but there was dust all over the floor from them.
Okay, so pause it there. And in fact, you can just pull that one down because we'll go to the next eyewitness here. So she's saying that the Army people were telling them to look forward so they couldn't see the bodies they hid in the corner that they were covering with mats. Now, again, obviously these eyewitnesses went through a very traumatic situation. Maybe their accounts aren't entirely accurate, but if you take them at their word, you have to wonder what actually happened inside of that school, because the official narrative does not jive with these eyewitness reports. And again, why is the Army on the scene so soon afterwards? Is that standard? It doesn't seem standard. Maybe it is. I know what's not standard. That's moving bodies stacking them up and hiding them and putting mats over them on an active crime scene. That is not normal. Here's a story at Infowars.com. Responders throw body bag in back of truck amid Florida shooting. And as Kit Daniels points out in this article, that again does not go along with standard protocol. So now let's go to this other eyewitness who said not only that there are multiple shooters, but that she was actually fleeing the scene with the suspect, Nicholas Cruz, while the shooting was still going on. Clip 9.
I actually was in the bathroom at the moment, and I had came back to my classroom and I knocked on the door and the fire alarm went off, and principal came on the speaker and just said everyone needs to evacuate right now. So that's what we did. As I was going down the stairs, I heard a couple shots fired. Everyone was freaking out, saying that it was a gun. And as we were walking, the whole class together, I actually was speaking to the suspect, Nicholas Cruz. And as I was speaking to him, he seemed very, I don't know what the word I want to say is, but he was trouble in middle school. So I kind of joked to him about it and said, I'm surprised you weren't the one who did it. And he just gave me a huh. So that's really what happened.
You were walking down the hall. He had already fired at that time.
Yes, sir, with him.
Weren't you scared?
In the moment I wasn't, because there was obviously definitely another shooter involved, but...
Oh, you think he was not the only one?
No, definitely not.
Why do you say that?
Because when shots were fired, I saw him after the fact. So, and the shots were coming from the other part of the building. So there definitely had to be two shooters involved, I believe.
That's the first I've heard of that. Did you see any other students who were wounded?
So, I mean, it's honestly just crazy. Because she doesn't even, and she might not know that Cruz isn't a student there anymore. She might not know. Because obviously that would, stick out to her if she knew that Cruz wasn't a student there anymore and she saw him and she was fleeing the scene with him. Something may have, sparked a thought in her head like, why are you here? You're not a student here anymore. And then, of course, the fact, I don't know if you can take anything from his response. Maybe he's shocked that she knew it was him, or he's shocked that she accused him of doing it. And then you can tell by her account of the event that she thinks there had to be another shooter, because based on the timeline of her experience and fleeing the scene with Cruz, she doesn't see how he could have been the only shooter. But think about it too. So Cruz pulls the fire alarm, may or may not have set off smoke grenades. I haven't heard anyone report any of a smoke grenade being set off, but apparently pulls the fire alarm to get the students to rush out. According to the last eyewitness, was running up the stairs shooting. And then at some point in time in the midst of all of this, again, I don't know, does he bail? Does he bail on the gas mask, the gun, the smoke grenades, and the alleged body armor? Where was that evidence acquired? Now, here's my biggest question that nobody's asking and that is yet to be answered. Why did the cops, or how did the cops come to arrest Nicholas Cruz? How did they come to determine that he was the perp? Was that because students said, hey, I think it might be this guy, he threatened to do this, and then they showed pictures of the guy? Okay, so let's say that is the case. Well, he successfully fled the scene, and now he's just floating around on the streets an hour and a half, or less than an hour after the shooting, a mile and a half from the scene. He's just kind of floating around. Oh, hey, I just shot at the school. Where am I at? What's going on here? Of course, Matt Bracken was saying on the Alex Jones show, maybe he thought he was going to get extracted from the scene. He shows up at the extraction point and he gets hung out to dry. Where? So again, how did they know? How did they ID Cruz as the perp? Was it because of students saying they thought he was going to shoot up the school? Or did the students actually see him take off the gas mask, put down the firearm, and abandon whatever smoke grenades or bulletproof vest he had on? Because that had to happen if an eyewitness saw Cruz and spoke to Cruz, and obviously he didn't have a gas mask on then, he didn't have an AR on him then, he didn't have smoke grenades on him then, she would have noticed that. Somebody would have noticed that. So he had to have abandoned all that equipment at the scene. So then did video evidence? Did they have video evidence of him abandoning the equipment and then fleeing the scene, and that's how they knew it was him? And then again, what is he doing an hour after the event takes place, a mile and a half away, just trolling around on the street? What is that about? How did the cops come to ID him? How did the cops come to arrest him? How did they determine he had a gas mask and smoke grenades and a rifle? When did he have it on him with him or not? Why? That is a big question, because if he had it with him, then how did he have it with him if an eyewitness was speaking to him before that and he didn't have it with him? These are the questions that are difficult to ask, but someone's got to do it, so that's what we do. We'll be right back.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
Fuel your body with Carnivore, the new digestive enzyme product by Infowars Life. Digestive enzymes assist in the digestion process and increase the bioavailability of nutrients by breaking down foods into easily absorbable components. They also help prevent discomfort from indigestion caused by fermentation of undigested food particles in the gut. Digestive enzyme production declines as we age. Carnivore is filled with digestive enzymes like those naturally present in the body. Enjoy the full potential of protein-rich foods again. You can eat protein-heavy foods now while minimizing the later indigestion and discomfort commonly associated with high-meat diets. Just one pill with every high-protein meal helps increase the bioavailability and absorption of amino acids, the building blocks to your muscles. Carnivore also contains digestive enzymes to help digest fats and carbohydrates so you can fully digest all types of meals. Don't let a meal go to waste. Use Carnivore by Infowars Life. Head to InfowarsLife.com and secure your bottle now. That's InfowarsLife.com.
County, this is Charlotte County COPWATCH, and I wanted to explain what fair use is. You can use pieces of your news articles if you're doing it for news reporting, you have commentary, and you're doing it for education purposes. So that's what fair use is, as you can see right here. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is to let you know I have just joined with Patreon. A nice thing with Patreon, I make no money on YouTube. They took the money away years ago, and so this is another way to give, and it's a nice thing too, because you can give monthly. You can give $1, $5, $10, whatever. I do 4 to 5 hours a day on trying to wake the sheeple up on how corrupt it is and different ways that you can fight the corruption. So Patreon is a way that you can do it, and then of course the old way is still there. Donate to Charlotte County COPWATCH with PayPal or credit card. So keep that in mind. 4 to 5 hours a day. I make no money, but the corruption happened to me and I'm sick of it, so I'm trying to wake people up. But my wife would love it if if we could get some help out there. There's 47,000 subscribers. Just think if each one of you subscribers just gave let's say actually yes, $1 a month. 47,000 subscribers gave $1 a month. That would be awesome. That's not going to happen. But anyways, that would be great if it did happen. But do the math in your head. Just think about it. Like I said, 4 to 5 hours a day. I get no money from YouTube. YouTube has gone nuts. You can't do anything anymore. They're taking the money away everywhere. So these are a couple different ways that you can still help out with all this time that I put in. And as you know, I'm in a special situation where, at least I can do it. 4 to 5 hours a day. We have a cleaning company during the day. That's what allows me to do this, and we're debt free. So this is my hobby. I don't go fishing and all that other crap. I try to save the world. So help me out to make the wife happy, man. In fact, if you guys did give $1 a day, and there was 47,000 of you, and you did it, and each of you gave $1, and that was every month, oh my God, yes, I could quit. I could start suing them. Another idea too that we have is, you know, if I got, you know, some funds, we could actually contact everyone that has been ticketed and or arrested and put in jail and start sending them postcards to let them know we're here, and to see if everything went all right, and if it didn't, find out their story. So we could even do more investigations and more lawsuits. Lawsuits take money. So just think about that. You know, 47,000 of you so far right now. You know, $1 a day. I mean, $1 a month on Patreon, or $5 a month Patreon, 10, 20, whatever. Just do the math in your head. Help out. This is a lot of work every single day. Thanks.